Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. The manhwa starts with someone pushing themselves off the ground, covered in blood, as a winged man stands before him. He says, God is dead. Humanity worshipped gold and revered arcane engineering until finally they turned themselves into slaves. The man holds a sword, asking how this is fair. His opponent has his sword covered in aura, and the man leaps at him anyway, asking why this is even a thing. He screams while swinging his sword, only for us to see a giant explosion from his opponent straight diffing him. We learn that it's the best modern apocalyptic fantasy game, called Arcane Soul. The man's screaming, saying that this game is garbage pay to win. His name is Kim Jo-Soo, and he is a 22-year-old college student. His enemy says he did pretty decently for free to play, but it sucks to be him, and he was literally playing on auto mode the entire time. His ID is called Rich Heavenly Demon Chan. Jo-Soo insults him, and the Heavenly Demon starts to finish the fight, saying it was pretty fun and he's never seen a free-to-play do so well. Jo-Soo is in public, and he's hella pissed by this. He screams, asking how it's fair that even though he spent 10,000 hours on the game, someone who just spends a couple thousand can beat his progress. He lets out a sigh, saying he was the idiot for wasting his time on this dogshit game, and he should just go do his dailies, so he can actually finish his homework. He's a no-lifer that does his dailies regardless of how much he hates the game. He starts to do a free pull, and he says that it's probably just going to be as ass as the last one and give him another warrior Kim. He draws it, and he is surprised by it. As we see a platinum chest on his screen, his heart starts to race, and then the realization sets in after he sees the character he gets is none other than the Heavenly Demon, which is an SSR rank. He asks how the hell he pulled this, as it's the best character in the entire game. The chances of pulling him on a free pull are insanely low, there are a lot of zeros in there. He starts to dance in public, saying that this shit is now the game of the year, and he should get to raising the Heavenly Demon. We learn that the easiest way to level a character inside of Arcane Soul is to use the characters you've raised as experience. Now he's no longer jealous of the whales, and he's going to use all of the warrior Kims he's pulled throughout his thousands of hours to raise his Heavenly Demon's level. We see it pouring into him, with each one of the warrior Kims being consumed. He says it's time to now experience the same game that the whales have been playing. But bro forgot that he was in public and begins to walk straight into traffic. When he turns to his right, it's, of course, our friendly neighborhood truck coon. He drops his phone, saying this is a familiar event. When he opens his eyes, he's looking up at a ceiling, confused, and he wonders why he's in a hospital. His head starts to hurt, and he remembers the fact that he walked into traffic like a moron and almost got isekai'd. He shouldn't have been careless in the first place. A woman enters the room, calling him Warrior Kim, and is surprised that he's awake. He asks what she's talking about, and she says she'll call the doctor. He wonders why she's calling him that name, and when he looks at his name chart, it actually says Warrior Kim, and he suffered a dislocation and concussion due to the accident. He wonders what kind of mistake this is and lets out a sigh, guessing that he did feel guilty about dusting his Warrior Kims for experience but wonders why his name is Warrior Kim on the sign chart. He tries to stand up but feels immense pain in his leg and screams hella loud. The nurse runs in, saying he can't move yet, and he asks why it hurts so much. His doctor says he was hit by a truck and got off quite lightly. Jo-Soo asks what they're talking about, and the doctor says they need to run some more tests, and he needs to get an MRI and a magical vision test. He hears the word magic and wonders what the hell they're talking about, thinking he's suffering a stroke. At the front desk, they're conducting the fees for his room, as well as the other medical things they had to do, like CT scans. They tell him it's going to be 22.3 million won, which is about $16,000. He says he was here for 4 days, so how is it so much money? The woman reminds him he has no insurance, so he has to pay it himself. He asks what she's talking about, saying that every Korean has national health insurance. She asks what he's talking about, saying that he doesn't have Legion insurance or Magic Tower insurance. He's confused, wondering what the hell she's talking about, but he recognizes these terms, wondering where he's heard them before. Legion, Megacorp, Magic Tower, Holy Order, these are the 4 factions that dominate Arcane Soul. This is one of the settings of the game. In a world where God had abandoned humanity, arcane science drastically developed, and the earth got overrun by monsters, and humans modified their bodies to survive. Bro starts to disassociate, saying, nah. The TLDR is that it's just a very hard world to survive in. He's looking up an alleyway and screaming, asking why the hell he had to enter this game. He says he went to sleep happy, having pulled the heavenly demon, but to think he ended up becoming a tutorial character. Maybe this is divine punishment for dusting all his old characters. He finally makes it to Warrior Kim's home, saying this shit is smaller than his bathroom, and he wonders why this dude is so poor. He sits on the bed, saying his body is injured, and he has no money, and he wonders what to do. He thinks about it, saying if this is actually Arcane Soul, soon events like nuclear wars, dimensional rifts, and even the revival of the old gods will occur, and this place will become a living hell. He doesn't know how he ended up here, but if he stays put, he will die 100%. He then realizes something, and what this means. He grabs a pen and raises it above his hand. He looks down, and he says he needs to check it before it's too late. He looks hesitant about it, and then he stabs the top of his hand as hard as he can, impaling it. He screams as he pulls out the pen, and he actually went all the way through. Immediately, a green aura begins to circulate around his wound, healing it, and he says he knew it would work. He obtained a trait called Wound Recovery, and the reason he raised countless Warrior Kims is because it is a free tutorial character, and it's the only character without a base trait. However, you can unlock traits and switch them out so you can raise Warrior Kims with freedom. For someone like him, who relied on strategy, Warrior Kim was the best way for him to play because he couldn't get rare characters. That means that now he is him. He can get any trait as long as he works hard to get it. All of his wounds begin to recover from the skill. He explains that in Arcane Soul, you die if you're poor or powerless or if you run out of luck. But he won't let that happen to him. He has the knowledge from having wasted 10,000 hours as a player. We see his rank jump from 115,000 down to the 7,000s, eventually to the triple digits, and then to the single digits, with him standing above monsters, now as rank 9, not sure what this means, but we'll find out. He then starts to walk to a talent agency, saying with Warrior Kim's body, this shit is free low. At the player personnel section, we see a man looking at his paper, asking Jo An-soo if this is his first time at a player personnel office. Jo An-soo says yes, and he plans on joining the mana purification business. He needs to earn money for his free shitty gacha game like this since he only has his body. This is the only thing he can do to earn money. The man puts his feet up on the table, saying it may be called mana purification, but asks him if he understands what dungeon clearing really entails. He is the player personnel director named Choi Seon-soo. Jo An-soo says he is aware. Seon-soo asks if he is sure, and laughs, saying there is nothing on his resume. Jo An-soo says of course he understands how this shitty game works and that contained mana is the reason that monsters took over Arcane Soul in the first place. Dungeon clearing is the act of cleaning up trash that emits a large amount of contained mana. Rather than the typical dungeon clearing that we are used to where they clear only monsters, extended exposure to the mana can result in death, as it tears away your humanity, turning you into something else, which is known as a mutation, making the work very dangerous. Seon-soo says fine, and as soon as they have enough people, he will let him get assigned to a team. Jo An-soo thanks him, and the man asks if he is really sure about this. Does anyone else think he looks like Jet Black from Cowboy Bebop? He says that he has seen plenty of people like him enter this work for money and return completely dead on the inside. Jo An-soo laughs, saying not to worry as he will be better off than he is. Seon-soo is confused, and Jo An-soo says that working his ass off as a free-to-play player is his expertise. He meets his labor leader, and his name is Deer. He asks Jo An-soo if he is the newbie joining them. Jo An-soo says he guesses so, and he is only here because he was assigned. Deer grabs onto his collar, asking if this looks like a playground to him, asking if he's worth the determination behind his eyes. He better not beg him to save him after he mutates, because if he spots the first sign of it, he will kill him. Jo An-soo says he will keep it in mind, and that this is the same as his reality. People always try to scare the newbies, but he wonders why the R-ranked character Deer is here. He says this is what he looked like before his awakening, as his legs were normal too. Somebody else enters, telling Deer this isn't something he should do to the newbies, and they are already short on personnel. His name is Hedgehog, and he has 5 years of dungeon cleaning experience. Deer clicks his tongue, saying that if he will be able to help them, it would just be nice if he is not a nuisance. Then he tells them all they have 4 hours to clean up 5 locations, and they need to move fast. Jo An-soo wonders what his deal is, saying he is a lot harsher than he is in the game. Hedgehog tells him not to be too bothered, as he might be rough on the outside, but he is a nice guy. Jo An-soo says okay, and we see that their first area is a landfill where all the trash is. They all complain about how much it reeks, and they can't get used to it. Deer tells everybody he is going to open the door, and to get ready. He activates his keycard, and immediately on the inside, they see it as filthy. Deer tells everybody to get into position, as there are mobs in the dungeon clearing process, and they are lower rank monsters called contaminated slimes that live here in the trash. Jo An-soo explains that the basis of cleaning up contaminated mana and monsters is getting rid of these slimes. Although they are weak, the reason why they are difficult is that after you cut them in half, they multiply, and they won't die until you find the little mana core in their bodies. The group starts to get overwhelmed, and they don't understand how they are meant to find the cores like this. Jo An-soo starts to run in and tells them to stay back. He leaps into the air with his shovel, and tells his co-worker that he is not taking responsibility for this. He shovels straight between his legs, breaking the mana core, almost ending this guy's future. Jo An-soo grins, saying this is perfect, and it is time for him to get warmed up. He continues dashing around the room, cutting their cores one by one, getting rid of them before they can hurt his team. And he is doing this all with only a shovel rather than a weapon. Deer looks over, and so does Hedgehog, as another co-worker is saying that he is killing the slime so fast, and they ask if this is even possible as they see him flying in for a giant one. Jo An-soo grins, saying of course it is. When we get a flashback to 2 days ago, and he wonders where something is as we see him crawling around on the floor, and it's in the middle of a playground. He says that it should be around here, and then he spots it, saying he found it. He picks up the coin off the ground, and he obtains the trait called Treasure Hunt, and he gets happy, saying he got the most important trait for Warrior Kim. He starts to dance around praising the coin he picked up, and the mother covers her eyes, saying he needs to think about happy thoughts. He learned a few important rules while gathering necessary traits. As we see him vomiting into a garbage can, as he has put himself in the middle of Asmongold's room, he acquires another trait called Contamination Resistance. He says this one was the hardest so far. Obtaining traits works the same as the game, as long as he satisfies the conditions. He looks at the traits, and he explains that there can only be a total of 6 equipped traits, and you can swap between them whenever you want. Thanks to the treasure hunter, he can now see the mana cores of the slimes, which is how he is disposing of them so easily, which includes a giant one. There's another one harassing his group as it shoots out a lot of goo, and Deer tells everybody to be careful not to get hit. But Jo An-soo just walks through it all, saying that his hard work is paying off as he is resistant to the contamination. I would not stick my tongue out in this situation. It jumps to them after work, on the bus going home. Jo An-soo says even with the help of all the traits, working all day is still rough. Hedgehog says he's surprised they're going home early thanks to him, and just watching him was amazing, asking if he is waiting to awaken like Deer. Jo An-soo laughs, saying it's nothing like that, he just knows how to work a shovel due to his military experience. Hedgehog tells him that's amazing as he grows horns, and Jo An-soo says his mutation symptoms are getting worse, and it looks like he's been exposed to too much contaminated mana. Jo An-soo tells him that he doesn't look too good, and he should rest at home. And Hedgehog laughs, saying he'd rather become a mutant than face his debt collectors. Jo An-soo says it makes sense why he wants the job, as there are not many people who want it. It jumps to a whole 4-day time skip, and he says they're all done, and that everybody looks tired, thanks to constantly having to clean. Somebody is vomiting their guts out, and it's none other than Hedgehog, who is getting worse and worse, and Jo An-soo says he warned him not to push himself too much. And Deer says the only reason he's still ready to go is because he's young, and he never thought he'd do his part in the first place, telling him good work. Jo An-soo says it's thanks to everybody, but in reality, it's only thanks to his traits. Jo An-soo says that Deer is holding on pretty well, and it must be because he is in our rank. They then hear screams, and he turns to see Hedgehog beginning to have a black aura around him. His co-workers say his spine is changing and ask if he's okay, but Deer runs in, asking what's going on, and Jo An-soo understands now too. Deer is trying to tell Hedgehog to stay awake, and that they need to get out of here, but Hedgehog's mutation is too much, as he begins to turn into a monster and explodes the area. Jo An-soo says shit is about to get real. As Hedgehog's foot stomps the ground, we see he has completely lost his humanity, turning into his name, aka a giant hedgehog, and he begins to foam out of the mouth like a rabid dog. Jo An-soo says all of his sanity is gone, and if they can't defeat him, they won't be able to escape. Since all the new traits he has are specialized for monster cleaning, he has nothing that's going to help in combat. No matter how much he thinks about this situation, he does not know what he can do to get out of it, so he has to cook up something. The first attack comes in towards Jo An-soo, and he doesn't even block it as he gets clocked in the face, sending him flying straight into a wall. He begins to spit up blood, saying that the power difference is too big, and he might actually die. He obtains a trait called Endurance from this hit. He says that it's too early to give up, as long as he has these traits, and to survive, he has to think of anything he can to do this, and he needs to get rid of some of his traits now. He begins to select them, saying that strength will be helpful. Mana Heart will allow him to control his mana, and endurance will reduce all damage taken. Mana Absorption allows him to absorb mana, and Deep Respiration grants higher mana regen. Lastly, the final piece of this puzzle, Corruption Resistance. Now that he has gotten all of his traits in order, he is much more suited for combat now than he was before. Hedgehog starts to run at him while screaming, and Joansu activates Strength, which gives him a 10-fold power increase. He rears his shovel back and yells, hitting Hedgehog, knocking him straight into the air. He says that this is working, and he might actually be able to do this. As Hedgehog is still flying, he begins to spin like Sonic, and Joansu says that shit is illegal. As he kills his momentum and begins to head straight towards him, he bumps into a rock, sending him to go straight back up into the air. Joansu screams, asking what he is even meant to do in this situation, as he eats the attack, getting crushed by Hedgehog. Hedgehog then creates some distance while laughing, and then spots something as Joansu leaps up out of where he was attacked, using endurance, which makes his defense 10 times as strong. He says even with endurance, that shit still hurts. He gets ready for a punch, saying if he stops now, he will die, and begins to unleash a barrage of punches onto Hedgehog, as this is his only choice, to permanently attack him. One of Hedgehog's quills bends, and it shoots out, almost clipping Joansu. But that was just the first, as he unleashes an actual barrage, piercing Joansu's body all over with these quills and knocking him down to the floor. He says he just needs to do a little more, and he begins to run straight back in. Coming in for yet another punch, we see blood, as well as his clothes being sent across the field, as his hand just got absolutely obliterated by something. Joansu's confused, and Hedgehog prepares another quill attack, blowing off Joansu's entire arm. Joansu screams, and Hedgehog puts both of his fists together, coming down for the finishing blow. Joansu says this is as he expected, and he cannot win with Warrior Kim. As Hedgehog's fists come down, we see it hitting where Joansu was laying. We get a flashback to him playing the game on his phone. He says back when it was a game, it was all easy. All he needed to do was to press a single button to hunt down monsters, and he never thought about how the character would feel. He simply pushed his character into extremities under the pretext of efficient training. But now he understands exactly how he felt, and that it takes suffering to obtain even a mediocre trait. As we see, he has managed to block the attack after his hand has regenerated. He then goes in for a swift punch towards Hedgehog's head, sending him flying across the field. He says there is no way to win without paying a price, as he has been hopping on some trenbolone sandwiches, activating a trait called Mutant Muscle. There are still quills all in his body. Hedgehog hits a wall, and Joansu says the reason he went for reckless attacks was to obtain the trait. It was for the trait obtainable when surpassing the limit with Mana Heart and Strength, which was when they combine, and he activates Mutant Muscle. Hedgehog begins to run straight back in, and Joansu says all of the buildup was for this moment. He blocks Hedgehog's punch easily and begins to laugh and retaliate, saying that doesn't work anymore, and he dares him to hit him back. Hedgehog's fist begins to develop some quills as well, and he punches Joansu straight in the chest, causing him to hit the floor, turning him into Swiss cheese, putting holes all in his body. His intestines begin to regenerate, but they look like they are mutating as well. Hedgehog is confused, as Joansu has now unlocked the mutant body trait, making his body now match his colossal arms. He thanks Hedgehog, saying he needed this, and it was all thanks to his help. He runs in, and Hedgehog charges in, but Joansu doesn't back down, and they have a battle of strength as they are now on the same footing. Deer begins to regain consciousness and looks up, wondering what the hell is with all this noise, and he sees a straight brawl. It's like something out of a kaiju movie. He's surprised that it's Warrior Kim, asking if he was a superhuman or something, saying that a normal human can't fight against a mutant on equal footing. Both Joansu and Hedgehog knock each other away with their strength, and they both hit the floor at the exact same time. Joansu looks up, saying this is not so easy, and his size is similar, but at this rate, it's going to be a disadvantage. Hedgehog begins to scream, and Joansu says that it is dangerous, but he has no choice. He activates his trait called Contamination Resistance, which we already know what it is. He says that he has to believe in himself, only for him to delete the skill. Deer is surprised as Joansu's body begins to mutate just like Hedgehog's, and he begins to fight for his sanity as he begins his monsterification. His skin starts to turn red, and he lets out a primal roar, which scares Hedgehog. A magic circle appears above his mouth, and he lets out an absolute beam of a cannon directly at Hedgehog. Hedgehog tries to block it, but it is futile, as he gets sent flying hella far away. Deer wonders what that is, and we see a giant ogre-like version of Joansu look down at him, and he says he can't believe he became a mutant while fighting one, asking how this is even possible. But to Joansu, it's just another trait called mutant. Deer says, "Holy shit," wondering what the hell this is, and he starts to crawl away from Joansu, thinking he has to get out of here. Joansu continues to growl and stretches his hand out directly towards Deer. Deer closes his eyes out of fear, only to hear Joansu coughing and groaning. When he opens his eyes, he sees Joansu standing above him, panting, as he is now back to a human. Then, he falls face first in front of him, saying that he did it. We learn that his corruption resistance is the last line of defense. If you're in possession of mutant form and mutant muscles, and you delete the resistance, you will get mutant. The common belief is that once you turn into one, you cannot change back, but he knew otherwise, and he needed to get that, and he knew that he would be able to change the trait as long as he was able to think reasonably, even for a little bit. So even though his body was melting apart and rebuilding over and over, and the pain was unbearable, he still fought for his sanity, which is how he was able to switch out corruption resistance for his mutant skill. We get a nice aerial view of where they're cleaning up, and Joansu looks gassed out. He says it felt like all of his muscles and bones were moving around, and he doesn't ever want to go through that again. He shakily stands back up, walking over to Hedgehog's body. A purple orb comes out of Hedgehog's mouth. Joansu grabs it, and we learn that it's a level 1 mana core, and he starts to have a shit-eating grin, saying that it was all worth it. He starts to dance, saying cleaning sure is profitable. Deer asks him if he's okay, saying he became a mutant, asking what happened. Joansu says it'll be annoying if there are strange rumors, so he just says that he kind of gambled on being able to turn back, and he was really lucky. Deer is surprised, saying that was way too risky, and Joansu hands him some level 0 mana core since he just got a level 1. He says that he wants to head back now and get some fresh air, and everybody is surprised since he saved their lives and even gave them some mana cores, hoping they'll keep his secret. But Deer looks at him suspiciously. Back at Seonsu's building, we see him starting to hella glaze Joansu. Joansu wonders what's with all the ass kissing. Seonsu says that he should have said something if he was a superhuman, and they would have given him proper work instead of this. Joansu now understands why he's glazing him. In Arcane Soul, a superhuman awakens an ability allowing them to obtain powerful mana. In a world like this, where strength is power and authority, superhumans are basically the nobles. But it makes sense that he'd think that, since you need to be a superhuman to defeat mutants. Although in his case, it's just poor game design due to him being able to get traits. Seonsu reaches into his pocket, saying he should pay him for the cleanup, and Joansu says that would be nice and tries to remain calm, but inside, he has that grin, saying he'll let him think he's a superhuman for now. Seonsu pulls out a ton of money, saying he cleaned up 5 regions, and they take 20% of the fees from the total of 50 million won. If they divide that up to how many people were in the group, he would be giving him 5, but they'll do it differently this time. As he sets a whole lot of money on the table, he says they'll only be taking 5% of fees from his share and even giving him a bonus of 12 million. Joansu's grin takes on a whole new level, resembling Lloyd. Bro's tongue even turns into a heart. Now, he walks out of the room singing, and somebody says it seems like he's in a really good mood, and the guy says that he must have been paid a lot. Joansu says yes, since they finished the job, and he recognizes him as one of the people he worked with. The guy says the reason he's here is because he wants to ask a favor. Joansu asks what he means, and the guy says that his wife is actually sick, and he's wondering if he can lend him some money. And he's sorry to ask for this when they don't even know one another. Joansu says it's not a good idea to help others when he doesn't know anything about them, and he might even stab him in the back, as it's hard enough to support himself right now. Joansu grabs the man's hand as he is begging him, saying that he is much older than him, so he doesn't need to do this. And although it's not a lot, he can use this, as he hands him a lot of level 0 mana cores. Joansu says that he feels too bad to just ignore the man. What a Chad. Later that night, we hear that guy laughing, calling him a dumbass, saying he pretended to be poor, and he gave him so many mana stones. And he's bragging to Deer. Deer says he must be new to this type of stuff, and the guy says he would have given him more if he said his kid was sick, too. And he says what's annoying though is that he was paid more than everybody else, and he gave him an extremely small portion, along with that fake superhuman part of their shares, too. Deer sighs, saying he's not even a superhuman, and they better teach him a lesson. The beggar asks if he has an idea, and Deer asks if he can't tell and smiles, saying that actual moron must have some kind of strange ability. As Bro is happy about helping the poor, Deer says since they know his secret, they can teach him a lesson about how truly scary the world can be. It jumps to a high-class resort as we see Jo-An-Soo through a window, getting a massage, and he says, "Money sure is great." He never thought he'd be able to see the day he could get a massage at a place like this, and being in the game is much better than reality. The masseuse squeezes his arm very tightly, and Jo-An-Soo says he spent 3 whole days resting in this hotel, and it still hurts. From now on, he has to think twice before using any mutant-related traits. Changing traits isn't as omnipotent as he thought. His body changes depending on the traits, and the severity of the side effects increases the more his body changes. The problem is survivability after limiting his trait usage. He looks out the window, recognizing some people, saying that is the Iron Fist gang, as we see them all by the pool. He explains that Arcane Soul is dominated by local gangs rather than by laws. It's only natural since there are too many monsters around, and people have to depend on superhumans. He says he did manage to survive the first bit, but he'd only be foolish to depend solely on his traits in such a dangerous place, and he begins to grin, saying in the end it will all come down to him being overgeared. He heads to a miscellaneous store, and a woman asks if he's here to sell stuff. He says yes and that he has some byproducts from monsters. She looks at his clothing, saying that she's telling him up front they don't buy any level 0 mana cores, since our boy is not dripped out. He says that he's aware of that. He reaches into his bag, saying this is what he would like to sell, as he pulls out a blue mana core, which surprises her. She asks if this is a level 2 mana core, and he says yes, telling her to get a good look. He says that it feels good to see her surprised. He's so glad that he got a level 2, and grinding for it in the hotel paid off. If he can sell it at the highest price, this would be the way to go. He asks if she sells weapons and armor. She says of course, letting him come into the back. As soon as he enters, he looks surprised, saying it seems like she has everything in here. The government needs to keep tabs on this woman, and he says all the basic items used in the game are here too. She tells him to take his time, and he says sure. Then he starts to get hella excited, saying it's time to get geared. He starts to carry hella guns in his backpack like Bro is playing PUBG, and he says now that he has weapons, it finally feels like he's playing Arcane Soul. He then hears a woman calling out to him, and he turns. She asks if by chance he's a mercenary, saying that she needs help. He says he's not and that she should find somebody else, but she pulls some money out, saying she's here on a business trip, and the Iron Fist gang scared her, asking if he could protect her on her way to the lodging. He sees she's trying to give him 500,000 at least to be a bodyguard, and maybe he should try since he's geared up. He puts his hand on her shoulder, saying he can't ignore a lady in danger, and he says it's time to go, looking ready. They start to head into some back alleys, and she says they're almost there. He wonders why she's staying in such a shady place, saying, "Forget a single person, there isn't even an ant." She quickly runs around the corner, and when he turns, he sees nothing but darkness. She says they're almost there and he should be quick. He says it's too dark and he can't really see anything. Then his eyes begin to glow yellow as he obtains a night vision trait, and he says now he can see, but he didn't plan for this. In her hands is a pistol being pointed directly at him, and she says that he's much more cautious than she expected. He wonders who she is and if this was all a trap. Only for him to turn around, seeing Deer, who laughs, asking him where he's going. Deer says it's nice to meet him again like this, asking if he agrees. Jo-An-Soo asks what he did to deserve this, and Deer says nothing really, he just seems stupid. And there's no other reason, calling him gullible. Jo-An-Soo drops his guns, instantly hauling cheeks, knocking the woman over, and Deer asks why he would start a conversation just to run. He tells the woman to shoot him, and she fires her gun directly at him, hitting him in the back. He begins to fall down some stairs. Then Deer asks, "What the hell?" Saying she was only meant to shoot his leg, not his chest, and she said it's better than him getting away. Deer says, "Holy shit, I think he's dead. Honestly, I think Bro could walk that off, he looks fine." The woman says that somebody might be able to buy his dead body, since he returned from being a mutant. The beggar says that it's time to loot his equipment now. And then when Deer looks back down, he says it can't be helped and they should do this first, only to see that Jo-An-Soo's body is gone, and they all begin to wonder where the hell he went as they begin to feel uneasy. The lamppost breaks, and the beggar gets hit in the back of the head. The rest begin to panic, wondering what's going on, and Deer says there's no way he's still alive. Jo-An-soo says he can't die to someone who repays kindness with betrayal, and it's a good thing he exited the store after wearing the bulletproof vest. Thanks to that, he obtained the trait he needed of playing dead after being shot. Deer looks around in panic, saying that he can't see anything since the streetlight is broken, and he wonders where Jo-An-soo is. Jo-An-soo instantly appears behind him, saying he's right here. He says that he saved his life, so he's taking it now, while punching straight at his face. Jo-An-soo hits him in the face, causing blood to fly everywhere. Deer then falls to the floor but instantly gets back up, wiping his mouth. He stands up and throws a kick at Jo-An-soo, who dodges it, and Jo-An-soo says he should be thankful that he saved him in the first place, asking if he thinks trying to kill a savior is the right thing to do. As Deer goes to fall to the floor from the attack, Jo-An-soo tells him to bite the curb and goes to kick, but the woman fires her gun toward Jo-An-soo, and she asks Deer if he's okay. She manages to hit Jo-An-soo's arm with a shot, and he says that he was too careless. In Arcane Soul, the scariest thing isn't monsters or mutants, but people. He was too naive and trusted them easily. He reaches into his pant holster and pulls out his gun so he won't make that same mistake again, and he shoots the gun out of the girl's hands, then shoots one of the men in the shoulders, saying that this is enough, as we see them both in pain on the ground. Something bounces off the wall, and Jo-An-soo turns, saying he should kill Deer to be safe, only for Deer to come in for a surprise attack. Jo-An-soo didn't expect this but manages to react in time by blocking the kick, though he loses his gun, and we see that Deer's legs have now transformed, and that Deer has awakened as a level 1 superhuman. Jo-An-soo says this game is so shittily made, explaining that superhuman awakening is something that all playable characters can go through. It's considered the basic growth system in the game, and according to the world within Arcane Soul, a level 1 superhuman is strong enough to threaten an ordinary civilian holding an automatic rifle. Jo-An-soo backpedals to create some distance as Deer says he'll kill him, and now Jo-An-soo has to deal with a superhuman with nothing but his body. Deer instantly vanishes in front of Jo-An-soo, and he wonders where the hell he went. We learn that Deer has 2 unique traits, which are called stereoscopic movement and kicking. Stereoscopic movement allows him to use his incredible leg elasticity to move freely in any direction he wishes. In his case, he's wall running like it's Assassin's Creed. Jo-An-soo looks up to see him from above. As he used it to gain height, he starts to come in with a kick using the momentum and height. And Jo-An-soo says he needs to dodge this, and he rolls out of the way, leaving the ground to be completely crushed. Deer is surprised and annoyed that he dodged that, and charges in, saying he won't be able to dodge this one. We hear it connect with Jo-An-soo, and Deer begins to grin, thinking that it's over, but Jo-An-soo says that he's sorry, but he has no intentions of dodging. As we see, he blocked it with a weapon, and he calls him a mutt that doesn't know his place. He knew that buying this extendable baton was a good idea. A few hours ago, in the girl's storage, he wondered if a gun would be that worth it. Since Warrior Kim is a warrior class character, even if he were to grow stronger, there's a limit to how effectively he can wield a gun, just in case he wanted to buy a weapon for melee, which was none other than this expandable baton. Each character has weapons and traits that are more effective for their class. We see Deer's leg is shaking, and Jo-An-soo manages to knock him back. That's why, in order to win against Deer, he needed to use a close-range weapon and traits fit for a warrior such as himself. He swings the baton down, actually hitting Deer, knocking him to the floor, and he acquires a trait called Strike. This is a class-specific trait for the warrior class. He then begins to try to spam his attacks to get even more, using things such as downward slash, uppercut, and even lunge. He then tries to sideswipe, but I'm not sure if he's gained a trait at this point. Deer looks for an opening and then takes it, coming in with a kick straight toward Jo-An-soo. Jo-An-soo debates if he should dodge or not, but says he can't stop after coming so far, and he grits his teeth, saying even if it means he has to break his bones, and he blocks the attack with his elbow, hitting Deer's leg. He says he should just keep attacking. This continues again as they trade blow for blow with one another. Then Jo-An-soo obtains a trait called Combo, and he begins to have that grin, saying, "That's it." The best warrior class trait build for early stages is pairing both strike and combo with one another. He's using his left hand to punch and his right hand to swing the baton, absolutely putting this dude in a cutscene. Deer begs him to stop as he starts to lose consciousness, and then Jo-An-soo thrusts his baton straight into Deer's chest, hitting him with strike. Deer finally loses it, falling to the floor, and Jo-An-soo yells, saying that he did it, and he defeated and awakened. His arms begin to feel hot, as they are burning the rain as it drops onto him, and he wonders what this feeling is as he looks down at them. His entire body begins to fill with pain, as a red aura swirls around him, and he says that he can sense something brimming within, and he thinks he knows what's going on. There's a very bright explosion from where he is standing, and as he now has a golden aura around his fingers, he says this is the day he learned the cruel truth of the world of arcane soul, and he is now awakened as a level 1 superhuman. If you've watched till the end, comment, Brownie, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.